Hello and welcome once again to the Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday. Ask that you like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Lots of new information for you. Today we're talking about the Liberals going deeper and deeper into your pockets. Another tax increase, this time with the capital gains. To talk about this and much, much more, we have Michelle Rempel Garner, the Member of Parliament for Calgary Nose Hill. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's roadmap how we actually got here. The capital gains itself. Why don't you tell us how we got to the point where the government, which has never had more money in terms of revenue coming in, because of course they printed money and the taxes and everything, but we have a spending problem. But roadmap us how we got here with the capital gains.
Well, I mean, I think we have to start by stating a fact. The government is broke, like super broke. Everybody knows the Prime Minister has doubled Canada's debt in the time he's been in office. Our deficits are out of control. Like even in 6 weeks between when we see one report in terms of the size of a deficit that's been projected to another update, you're seeing sometimes fluctuations of $10 billion in increase. So they're broke. They don't have money to spend. So, and the other thing that, I mean, politically, I think that everybody needs to understand about what we're about to talk about is the Liberals are desperate too, right?
Yep.
People have really, putting it mildly, given up hope on them. They don't trust them anymore, and they're desperate. They're looking for a political narrative. And so what do? What do Liberals always do when they're desperate and broke? It's wedge politics, right? So that's really where we're at on this policy. So they're trying to position this tax as a good thing, and I'm really excited that people aren't buying it because it's another tax on everything. So, without getting into all the technicalities on this tax, because anybody who it applies to, they kind of understand it, right? But how it affects everybody is like, this is going to affect healthcare providers at a time when we have a huge healthcare shortage. Like, I don't know about you, I don't have a family doctor. I know a lot of your constituents probably don't.
Yeah, it's tough.
So this is going to dramatically impact healthcare providers. We're hearing a lot of doctors saying that they might not be able to stay in Canada at a time when we can't attract enough doctors. It's going to affect farmers at a time when we're having, record food prices. So it's probably going to drive food prices up. It affects home builders, right? So, I don't know, I have lots of small businesses in my riding, people who run small cribbing crews or framing crews. It's going to affect those people at a time when we need to do what? Build more houses. And I could go on, but the point is that they are broke. They're looking for a way to get revenue that they clearly don't have, but while shrinking the Canadian economy and making life more expensive for people. So this is just a huge tax grab. They're trying to wedge Canadians on this. But I think it's really, I don't know about you, I haven't had a lot of people emailing me going, oh yeah, this is great. Actually, a lot of people united in saying, we can't let this pass. I've never voted Conservative, but I cannot let this pass.
And anyone making an investment that would be then subject to a capital gains tax makes that investment with after-tax dollars. So you've already paid the tax. You've already done your penance to government, right? You've given them your tax, and you're trying to make a go of it and not be so dependent on the government for certain things, right? You want to create a future, right?
Absolutely, and that's one example. We're talking about healthcare providers, the people that we depend upon to, treat our kids' ailments. They don't get maternity leave from the government. They don't get certain types of benefits that others do. And I'm not saying that they're not well compensated, but this is a structure that they depend upon to provide services to us. And what the Liberals are saying right now is they don't matter, they don't count. And that impacts everybody in our community, right? Because if you can't see a doctor, I mean, we arguably already can't see a doctor. This is only going to make it worse. And again, there's such a wide breadth of services that this is going to impact. And at a time when we need to be pulling the country more together, be more unified, this is just a divisive tax grab. It's not. I'm not going to say it's a tax grab. It's theft. I almost would say, and it's going to increase the cost of living for a lot of and lower the standard of living for a lot of Canadians.
Yeah, that's the part that is going to continue to get it's already rolling down a very dangerous hill. I think this just speeds it up. And at the same time, the government's solution to all of this is another government program, right? We've seen that with the whole slew they've just laid out, right? It's we'll fix the problem with another government program.
I'm so glad you brought this up because this is where they're trying to create a false narrative to drive a wedge. And anybody who's listening to this needs to understand the politics of what they're trying to do. So they're doing exactly what you just said. They're trying to hoodwink Canadians and say, look, if we take all of this money, from all of these people, somehow that's going to magically make life better for other Canadians. But when has Justin Trudeau ever made anybody's life better? Honestly.
No.
Services
I mean, are getting worse.
I mean, like any metric in Canada, our standard of living is worse. Crime, home affordability, food affordability, whatever. You choose it. I think there was a lot of controversy a year and a half ago for people saying Canada's broken, and it's broke. So, Justin Trudeau doesn't make your life better. So for them and for Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister, to come out and say, oh, well, this is going to make people's lives better, it doesn't.
No.
So I think Canadians need to understand that when Justin Trudeau comes out and tries to say that by him taking more of your money or their money, that somehow he's going to magically make life better, they have to, the proof's in the pudding. He hasn't done it yet. He shouldn't be trusted, and we've got to oppose this. We have to oppose it hard. Yeah,
as you said right off the top, and many times, it's wedge politics, right? It's class warfare. Once you start going after people with stuff, so to speak, in their language, eventually you run out of people with stuff, right? Or the next person in line becomes the wealthy that you then go after, right? Because the middle just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Why don't we cue up cut one? Let's have Chrystia
This is
Freeland.
great.
This is going to cringe. I know you don't like this clip, but...
No, I don't. But I think explaining what this clip is important. So this is the Liberals' narrative. This is how they're trying to explain and hoodwink to Canadians on why they need to steal more of their money.
All right. Play cut one.
But I would also like to ask Canada's 1%. In fact, Canada's 0.13% to consider this. What kind of a Canada do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a country where kids go to school hungry? Do you want to live in a country where a teenage girl gets pregnant just because she doesn't have the money to buy birth control?
Okay.
But those are problems created by the Liberals.
Yes!
Can't affordability.
Yes! This
Can't
is
afford
exactly
food.
it.
Can't afford the basic necessities.
So you had the same reaction I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she gave this. So this is a speech she gave, I think, this week when she's re-announcing this tax, trying to wedge us and Canadians. But she also gave a similar speech in the actual budget speech, where she says, "What kind of Canada do you want to live in?" And then goes through these lists of things where I'm like, girl, this is already happening and it's your fault.
Yep.
It's your fault. It's actually her fault. She is the one who printed money out of control, these crazy deficits that why? Massive deficits that went to the We Charity scandal and the Arrive scam app and corporate welfare after elite slush fund after bad contract after we can't even keep up on trying to stay on top of all their waste. And now she's saying, what kind of Canada do you want to live in? Well, I want to live in a Canada where she is no longer in charge of the federal budget, where Justin Trudeau is nowhere near the levers of power, and where we have some common sense conservative principles on how Canadians can get ahead. And I think, sorry, that was such a cathartic clip.
No, that was beautiful. I like that.
But I guess this is a bridge into our leader's response, Pierre Poilievre's response yesterday. So he got up in the House of Commons, and I think the Liberals were expecting, I don't know what they were expecting out of us.
I think I'm sure they had a whole range, but they just weren't sure, because I don't think they are sure of themselves on this policy.
100%. But then he got up and he just level-headed, listed why everything that they're doing is wrong. He stated all of these facts with regard to the economy, Canadian standard of life, and then he offered this really strong alternative plan. And I thought it was great. I would love to hear what you thought.
Yeah, I think the way he laid it out is just like, as we keep saying, common sense, right? Like, I think a lot of people are wondering, like, the world doesn't make any sense anymore thanks to Justin Trudeau, right? Like, up is down, left is right. Like, he has just made a mess of everything. And just to hear Pierre Poilievre speak and lay out a plan that brings some sense of reality to this government, it's refreshing, in my opinion.
And one of the things I really appreciated that he laid out in that plan was that once he becomes prime minister, within the first 60 days, he would put together a panel of entrepreneurs, of farmers, of small business owners to look through the tax code, which is, Canada's tax code is so complicated, and everybody knows that, and come up, like, do a whole review of this, and then come up with a really common sense tax cut that touches a lot of different areas, right?
Yep.
And you know, he has this ability to make language, like really complicated concepts, really simple. And in that speech, he said, you know, look, we're going to do this so that it's easier for Canadians to make stuff, so that it's easier for Canadians to afford stuff. Then you contrast that with, you know, the hyperbole coming out of Chrystia Freeland, and just like the gall, right? Of trying to say, like, it's like, again, the call is coming from inside the house. This is your fault. It was a clear contrast, and it's one that I know that will be communicating strongly to Canadians, and that's why, you know, if anyone's listening to this, it's important to share this type of content so that others know that there is a clear choice in the next election.
And even with that panel you were talking about, maybe super producer Nick can put up the graphic while we talk. The panel that you were talking about, it's like of normal people, right? It's not a bunch of Ottawa elites or heads of corporations. We're talking about normal, on-the-ground people actually doing the work in
No
our
lobbyists.
communities.
He specifically said no lobbyists.
No lobbyists. Let's hear common sense from a farmer on the ground. Let's hear from a small business owner struggling under the weight of this government. Let's hear the examples on the ground, not from the big corporate leaders.
And also, like to your point, I think that they have insulated themselves from average Canadians, and I think they honestly think that A, this is a great strategy. It's not. And B, that somehow, I almost think they have drank their own Kool-Aid a little bit on this and think that this is a good thing. This is really like their caucus, their Liberal backbench. They have to stand up to this. Like, and the NDP do as well too. So, like, I know, you're getting a lot of emails and feedback about this. Do you want to spend a little bit of time talking about how people can help us fight back?
Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. Because these aren't just the elites that the finance minister. These are normal people, right? Plumbers, electricians, like normal people looking to secure their future.
Yeah, and again, I think just as we get into how people can help us fight back, it's important to note that, you know, they're saying that this is only going to affect a few Canadians. That's a lie. It's a flat out lie. It's going to affect so many Canadians in so many ways. So it is important, like, obviously we're going to fight this very strongly, but the community needs to put pressure on the NDP and the Liberals to say that this is wrong. We've seen them walk things back occasionally before. If people want this walk back, they have to start lighting up the phones, email boxes of Liberal and NDP MPs with stories about how this is affecting their lives, and push that. There is an opportunity, I understand, because, like, even though there's a motion that's gone through the House, which sort of sets the terms, without getting into technicalities, for this tax to take hold as of June 25th, the Liberals still have to put in place legislation that has to pass the House of Commons that would then be essentially retroactive, right? So there is an opportunity to influence the government on this. And like this summer, like starting today, call a Liberal MP. If you live in a Conservative riding, don't worry, we've got your 6. We are going to oppose this. That's what we're going to be doing all summer. But they need to start calling and emailing Liberal MPs and just explain to them why this is a bad thing.
Yeah, it's strength in numbers. And as you just pointed out, we need to show that it's just not a certain small group of people like the Liberals are pointing out. It is everyday people in ridings, in you know, just trying to make a go of it in this environment, which has just been just very brutal for a lot of people. There's a lot of misery out there, groceries, rent, mortgages, etc. So they get your voices heard. Talk to your MPs. Michelle, we're pretty much out of time. Sorry.
That was a good rant. It was like a therapy session.
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to let some more out because the guests always get the last word. So the floor is yours.
I would just say this. I know you and I and the rest of our team are getting inundated on this issue from people who are just like, we cannot let this pass. It comes on top of, huge tax increases like the carbon tax that we've been appealing. It comes at a time when life is not affordable for Canadians. So this is just, for me, an appeal to anyone who is listening to this. If you've never written a Liberal MP, if you've never written an NDP MP before, now is the time to start saying, look, and find somebody who lives in those ridings.
Yes.
And get them to write to their MPs too, so that we can pressure the government to change course on this just wedge, divisive, bad policy before it's too late. And of course, always share and subscribe. Help us get the words out. The word out. It is Justin Trudeau's censorship bills make it very difficult for us to communicate. So sharing this content really helps us fight back.
Actually, that's a very good point. Not only are they taking your money, they're actually hampering your ability to hear messaging that is a little different from the Liberal narrative.
And they expect us to stay quiet. When people stay quiet and don't challenge them, they ram this stuff through. So it is time to get loud. And that would be my last word.
I like how you think. Write your Liberal MP. Tell your friends. Maybe they have a family member in a Liberal riding. They need to hear this message because there is a small window. There is maybe an opportunity to change this. Let's get these voices heard. All right, Michelle Rempel Garner, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. It was a lively conversation. I had so much more to talk to you, but unfortunately the clock is leading the way on this one. Please, as Michelle said, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Don't forget, you can tell your friends. They can download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. New content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, even throughout the summer months. We do not slow down. Until then, don't forget, it's low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.